Welcome to the 8th episode of the 6th series of the Women in CX podcast, a series dedicated to real talk conversations between women in customer experience. Listen in as we share our career stories, relive the moments that shaped us, and voice our opinions as loudly as we like about all manner of CX subjects. I'll be your host, Clare Muscutt, and in today's episode, I'll be talking to an incredible community member from Moscow. She has over 20 years' experience in market research and CX. Starting at GfK and joining Ipsos 4 years ago, she holds a PhD in medicine and is a certified mindfulness trainer. She's also the author of the book Wellbeing, Stress Management and Development of Creativity, and frequently delivers masterclasses and lectures on emotional intelligence and empathy, the prevention of burnout and customer centricity in healthcare. Let me introduce you to today's inspiring guest, CX sister Marina Bezuglova. Hi, Marina.
Hi, Claire. Nice to see you.
Wonderful to see you. Thank you so much for joining me on the podcast today. And
it's a great pleasure to be here with you.
And welcome to everybody who's listening or watching the podcast wherever you are in the world. So to get us started, the same question I ask all of our guests on the Inspiring Women in CX podcast is, how exactly did you find your way to Women in CX, and what kinds of things have you been up to in the community?
Yes, it was an interesting story because first I met you, and it was because I was writing my new book about stress and burnout, and I was collecting stories about burnouts from leaders, entrepreneurs, and one of my friend, Olga, and she's a member of the community, and she decided to help me and posted a call to the community to share the stories about burnout, about
Yes.
stress. And as a result, I got to know you, your story, and I learned about the community.
Mhm.
And for some period of time, I followed the community from afar, and I understood that I have a lot of values common with the community,
Mhm.
and also I'm involved deeply in customer experience topic because
Mhm.
I've been working for a market research and consumer research for many
Mm.
years, and especially I'm now interested in the uh, topic in connection between customer experience and employee experience.
Mm.
It was also topic for the community, and as a result, I understood that we have a lot of common interest to the community, and it should be perfect fit for me to join the community, and I did not regret it.
Yay.
Because yes, because from the very beginning I felt the value and warmth of the community, this wonderful community, and warm welcome puts immediately you at ease,
Mm.
and you feel that yes, you are surrounded by caring people, and you feel that you are in a safe place. And it's very important because in our complex world, to have feeling of safety, it's a great privilege.
Mm.
And also, when I asked my first question on a presentation I was working on, I got so many valuable ideas, interesting and useful links to articles, to studies, and I was convinced that yes, I was surrounded by caring people and great professionals, and this is great to be here and to share knowledge, to share my experience also, and helping others and celebrating success. And I would say that this community is not a formal organization of people. This is very warm and living organism with open heart where all your requests will be answered. And I'm happy to be here.
Oh, and
Really.
And thank you so much. And you've contributed so much as well. We loved your recent webinar on wellbeing as well. So being able to share your thoughts and insights and experience with the group, and that being able to go into our resource library for other people to watch in the future. I think that's what community is all about, isn't it? Like giving and receiving in
Yes,
equal measure. And
absolutely. Yes,
yeah,
absolutely.
and just wonderful to have you
Thank
here
you.
today. Yeah. So, in terms of your career journey, like I'm sure the listeners would love to know a little bit more about how you've ended up where you are today, working for this massive market research agency. So, yeah, to give us the backstory of Marina.
Okay. Okay. I got several backgrounds and educations. I'm a PhD in medicine. I got MBA, also background in psychology and
So it's Dr.
coaching.
Marina, I should be calling
Yes.
you.
Yes, and it was my old story from my youth. And actually, I'm a big fan of interdisciplinary approach because I'm sure that this intersection creates new knowledge, new
Mm,
value.
mhm,
And my first career was in medicine in scientific institute where I got my PhD in medicine, and then I went to a healthcare organization.
mhm,
I worked a little bit for Ministry of Public Health,
mhm,
but it was very boring for me because I was young, energetic, and I did not like all sorts of formal procedures. So
mhm,
I found a good solution where I can combine my interest to research, to medicine, to people, and
mhm,
I went to social and market research.
mhm,
And I started work for GFK.
mhm,
It's an international company, and I started doing research for healthcare and pharmaceutical companies, consulting pharmaceutical companies, and then for all other markets like automotive, banks, retail, telecom,
mhm,
because over time I became a top manager of GFK and my responsibilities expanded.
mhm,
And I was deeply involved in development of customer experience research, building metrics for CX, KPI system, building um, customer journey mapping, and continuous improvement of customer experience based on continuous study of client
mhm,
voice,
mhm,
both employee and customers. And
mhm,
then 5 years ago, I joined Ipsos, and now I'm responsible for healthcare business unit in the region of Central and Eastern Europe. And my interest now in patient centricity in healthcare and customer experience in medicine. And I believe
mhm,
that this topic is very important for the society. But it's not only my interest, and I am very interested in the trend of well-being,
mhm,
both corporate well-being and personal well-being. And
mhm.
generally, I start my master classes and educational event about well-being from personal well-being because
Mm.
all of us are people. And
Mhm.
if on our personal level we don't follow um, principles or values of health and well-being, it would be very difficult to build corporate culture of well-being in your company. So I
Mm.
believe that personal and organizational are very much related, and that's why I um, try to teach about that also. And also, I strive to develop mindful leadership because I believe that mindful and empathic leaders can make our world better. And I give lectures, master classes, educational events. So this is my
Mm.
journey up to
Mm.
now.
That's amazing. And you can definitely see there's that red thread of health and well-being that kind of started really early with your
Yeah.
PhD and has continued throughout. And it's great to see that you're kind of bringing that full circle again to well-being more broadly. But loved what you said there about, starts with you, doesn't it? And you can't pour from an empty cup. You can't make these big changes. You can't influence the well-being of others unless you're in touch with your own. And I
Yes.
know that you've been very instructional to me
Yes, maybe
about how important
now
that is.
I can see that this is the trend in my life, that I'm stick to this topic from the beginning, and um, different ways, but I came in the same
Mm.
point.
Yeah, yeah. And it is funny, isn't it? Because that probably wasn't intentional. But when you look back, you go, oh, that was the journey I took. I know for me, people always ask me, like, what was your strategy? I was like, I didn't have one, just kind of life evolved. And you can look back and go, it looks like a load of really shrewd moves, but it definitely wasn't. So I feel you on that one. And obviously so much experience that you've gained along the way. What was one challenge or barrier you had to overcome to become the woman you are today?
Okay, it's a very good question, because I believe that we grow from difficulties and adversity, and I believe in stressful growth,
Mhm.
because you have no reason to change if you are in a comfort zone. So if you are out of comfort zone, you have to change something, and you grow.
Yeah.
And in my career was a situation of difficult and maybe some changes and challenges. And it was several years ago when my company, where I worked for many years, was facing with the transformation process.
Mm.
The matter was that um, Investment Finance Corporation, the majority owner,
Mhm.
decided to restructure the company, and they decided to sell a part of businesses.
Mhm.
And I led the business that was decided to sell.
Mhm.
And of course, I worked for the company for many years as a top
Mhm.
manager. It was stressful news for me, but not only for me, but for the whole team. And the team, 100 employees, we lived during 1 year. We did not know where we'll be in a year as a result of the deal. And of course, it was stress for the team. And I understood that it's very difficult to maintain normal business when the team stuck in stress. So
Mhm.
my first instrument, management instrument during this time, was psychological support and empathy, because first we had to get rid of stress in order
Mhm.
to continue working.
Mhm.
And it was very interesting, because it was also a very fruitful period in my
Mhm.
life. I got additional background in psychology. I became a coach. I also was deeply involved in all sort of mindfulness practices myself, and I was able to return my state to normal state, because
Mhm.
based on meditation, yoga. But I also wanted to help my team to be in a safe place,
Yeah.
to get rid of stress, and it was my main job during that period. And also, it was very productive, because during this period, I started to write my book about stress and about creativity. And it was the book Well-being, Stress Management and Creativity Development.
Mhm.
And also, I prepared a educational program for well-being skills development.
Mhm.
And my life changed, and I began to work for my company only 4 days a week. It was my wish because I had a lot of new projects and I got additional time for writing books, for educational events, for coaching. And I would say that my life changed and I expanded boundaries of my life. And I guess that this crisis was useful for me because it changed my life. It's interesting. And my book in Russian language was published some time ago. And it's interesting that maybe a couple weeks ago, this book in English language was published on Amazon platform with a new
Yay.
title, Finding Serenity Amid the Chaos. And by the way, the community helped me with this book because together we were choosing the title, and uh, some friends helped me with even recommendations on the manuscript. So again, I got a huge value from the community. It's great.
Oh, we're so happy to help, and we'll come back to the book again in a second. So I'd love to dive a little bit deeper into that. But I just wrote down a couple of things that I wanted to dig a little bit deeper into, and I think first of all, it's this kind of concept of change, transformation, restructuring, reorganizing, mergers, acquisition. And I've been through that myself, and it definitely created so much stress for individuals, for teams, like just not knowing like what is the future going to hold. Even the way that, with redundancies, having to like interview for basically your own job or a slightly different job, knowing that a couple of people are going to make it through the process, is exhausting, and it's so disruptive, right? But that's like, let's say, merger, acquisition, or restructure, or like whole scale. But I think even with like transformation, this term that is just thrown around constantly everywhere now, creates a similar level of stress, particularly when the transformation is mainly targeted at saving cost and becoming more operationally efficient, as opposed to a better, stronger, more resilient business. And I think, what the conversation about the vision that's happening at a really senior level very, very rarely filters down to people in like lower management or frontline, and definitely requires more consideration about employee well-being during those times. But it seems to be an afterthought, or not even considered in so many company
Yeah,
reorganization.
yeah, and I would say that before I was the leader who was more caring about the business, and after
Mm,
this situation, after all this
mm,
merger acquisition process, I became a leader who was caring more about people. And
mm,
I understood that this is very good. When you care about people, they open their potential. And in case you care about people, you develop both
mm,
business and people. That's why I believe that mindful and empathic leader is the best leader in terms
mm,
of making
mm,
changes in the organization in terms of both people well-being
mm.
and business success.
Yeah, that is that issue of like psychological safety, isn't it? Because you've talked about this loads already, the community psychological safety, the experiences that you had in your own career, and like with the amount of bureaucracy that exists, particularly in big corporate organizations, especially when they're going through change, there's so much that's like kept out of view, isn't there, about what's really happening. Because it takes months to organize these things. And people know, they feel unsafe like before even the big news comes, because everyone can feel there's something coming. And then with like redundancies especially, I think there's so much bureaucracy from a legal standpoint, like you just can't have certain conversations with people. And I think it can end up being a particularly lonely place, especially for those people who don't end up staying within the organization. But that's painful. And yeah, very, very disruptive and unsafe. But the second thing I wrote down was, I'm going to quote this, useful crisis.
Yes, yes,
Because you said, like sometimes it takes for things to break in order to rebuild better. And on a personal level, I really identify with that. My own journey, I'm sure the listeners probably know this already, but women in CX wouldn't have existed if I hadn't basically lost everything in the pandemic,
yes,
because it
yes,
opened up space for me to be able to start a podcast and amplify the voices of women that I knew, because I had the time to do it. None of this would have happened if there wasn't a useful crisis of my own. And don't get me wrong, like it was incredibly painful. But even my own experiences of burnout, I think, has been this like kind of continuous getting to the point of breaking in order to recognize that change is required. And I'm still like kind of in the midst of figuring out like how to live sustainably with my own sense of resilience and anti-fragility. As a startup founder, have not got the answer yet, but really working to understand what lies below the surface of being the kind of person that ends up getting burnt out through my own patterns of behavior that I'm identifying in things like therapy. Why do I push myself to that limit without recognizing my own needs and putting myself first? I still don't know the answer, but when I do, listeners, I will definitely share it with you. But
yeah.
yeah, but having to get to that point where things feel like they've broken apart in order to build back better.
And now for a quick word from one of our sponsors. We are proud to be supported by Kantar, the world's leading evidence-based insight and consulting company. Kantar CX helps clients define customer and employee experience strategies, better understand their customers via measurement, and in turn improve business outcomes, driving true commercial ROI. To find out more about Kantar's CX practice, please visit the sponsor links on the homepage of womenincx.community. Now back to the episode.
So the book, so finding serenity amid the chaos, how managing your stress can enhance your creativity and well-being. And as you said, the community helped with the translated title because it was Russian originally, wasn't it?
It was the title that you helped to choose, if you remember.
Yeah, no, so I'm saying, yeah, I
Yeah,
remember helping. What was the title in Russian?
well-being.
Just
Well-being.
well-being.
It was yes. It's in Russian. It was English World Well-being
Yeah, okay.
because it's very
I know,
universal
that's a
word
word.
that we
Yeah.
use also in local language.
Well, the only reason I ask is because like when I went to Russia, when I was traveling, like I realized like you can't read any of the signs because actually it's a completely different alphabet. So is English and Russian interchangeable with some keywords?
But yes, of course, we have absolutely different alphabets, but
Yeah.
in my book, it's absolutely in Russian language, but well-being
Was
is
English.
written in Latin letters,
Mm,
not
mm.
Russian. So it's well-being, stress management, and creativity development.
Okay, so let's dive into this a little bit more though. So, you're writing about stress and creativity. Why did you combine these concepts? So please, let's take a step back and look down on this. What is the relationship between stress and creativity?
It's interesting because, firstly, originally the book was conceived as a book about creativity and decision making.
Mhm,
And it relates to my profession because we help our clients find non-standard solutions, out of box ideas, and we use a lot of creative techniques in order
mhm,
to find these solutions. So I understand how to be more creative.
mhm,
Also, I like neuroscience, and
mm,
I deep involved in this because of my medical background. And I was interested how brain creates new ideas.
mhm,
So I decided to combine uh, my understanding of creativity and neuroscience in order to understand this topic better. And it was very good because I believe if you understand how your brain works, you can better manage your life and your decisions. And also, in terms of customer experience, maybe you know that one of very good approach for improvement of customer experience is design thinking approach, design thinking instrument. And the core of design thinking is empathy and creativity. So I decided to be deeply engaged with this topic. But when we experience this crisis with my team, I understood that if you stuck in stress, you can't be open to higher needs like creativity, self-actualization. Just look at pyramid, Maslow pyramid. So if your basic needs are not satisfied, you can't be open to higher level needs. So I understood that first part of the book should be dedicated to stress management, because when you get rid of stress, you can be open to creativity. That's why the first part of the book was dedicated to mindfulness, well-being, mental health, health in broad sense. And the second part was dedicated to creativity, decision making, and it was more professional part. But of course, in our world, there are so much stress and mental health crisis in the world. So the first part proved to be very relevant to nowadays context about stress management. But I was very happy that I got first reviews on my English book, and it was very good feedback on the part on creativity. And I'm happy that some people see this usefulness from this part, not only stress reduction, stress management.
Yeah, just thinking about, I'm not surprised the book's got great reviews, because the bits I saw were brilliant. But thinking about the kind of like stress impact on the body, so like the production of cortisol can affect so many areas of your life, including things like sleep, can't it? And then when you start to get into a sleep deficit, things just progress and get worse and increase the stress level. So there's like a kind of neurophysical connection between the body and the mind. And I think for me, that's like the mental health issue can emerge pretty rapidly when you're in a state of physical stress and exhaustion, because everything just seems so much harder when you're tired. I know I've been working really hard on like just really basic things like getting enough sleep and eating regularly and eating nutritious food, and the difference I feel in my mental health when I'm just doing the basics really, really well. You know, so meeting your most basic needs is definitely something I'm becoming more aware of now. I'm on this journey to try to improve my wellness. But then the creativity aspect, was to bring it back to customer experience. I am a service designer by trade. I call it customer experience design now, but I think, you know, that, as you said, you did the empathy aspect of being able to listen to and understand, and then the creativity aspect of being able to respond with ideas that perhaps are less about improvement and more about innovation, is absolutely my most favorite place to be. Do you want to tell us a little bit more about the connection with customer experience?
Yes, but actually, this is customer experience. I like customer experience because the priority of customer experience is people, human being. It's about human being, their needs. And I believe that to be good in terms of customer experience, you should understand people, and for understanding you need skill of empathy. And if you understand and you feel the pain of other people, you are motivated to find a solution. because you have energy, you have emotions to help people.
Mm.
If you feel the pain of other people's, maybe they can't do something in customer experience. And if you understand, you need to make a very creative solution.
Mm.
And this is the next skill, because our brain is lazy and it will not generate new ideas,
Mm.
because we are very, I would say, mm, we have a lot of blocks in order to create some non-standard ideas.
Mm.
And you need to use special techniques. Some may be associations, borrowing from different industries to connect some pieces which are not usually connected. So there are a lot of different techniques in order to make your brain generating new ideas,
Mm.
sometimes fantastic ideas, crazy
Mm.
ideas,
Mm.
but you can then improve these crazy ideas and find out of the box solution for your customer experience.
Mm.
That's why I believe that empathy and creativity is the core for excellent customer experience.
Mm. And do you see empathy as like truly being able to feel how someone else feels, or do you think more in terms of cognitive empathy, being able to
Both,
imagine?
both.
Both.
Cognitive,
Okay.
both cognitive and emotional.
Mm.
It's both. And sometimes when we go through tests for empathy, there are two components: how I can understand and how I can feel other people. And actually, cognitive empathy is very important for a rational, maybe decisions regarding some things.
Mm.
But if you feel better pain of other people, you can find better solutions because you are more motivated.
Mm.
So, for example, now we create video films, movies about patients with some diseases, and pharmaceutical companies or healthcare organizations use these movies about patients for doctors in
Mm.
order to maybe generate empathy towards patients, because in interaction doctor and patient, it's very important that doctor can see a person with
Mm.
his needs, pain in,
Mm.
and how the disease can have impact on their
Mm.
lifestyle, etc. And if we see a person in the broader context of his life, doctors can understand and feel the pain of these patients, and they can be more empathic, and it could improve relationship between doctor and patient. And this
Mm.
is very important. So for me, empathy has both aspects:
Mm.
rational, cognitive aspect, and
Mm.
emotional. And emotional is also important.
Mm. That's such an interesting example. It was a really good one. So being able to make that patient a human with a life and understand the context of their experience, to I suppose using storytelling in a way, isn't it, to give that person a narrative. I know in customer experience design, being able to put people in touch with the customer reality if they're not that close to customers was a really important part of being able to bring people together to do a workshop around innovation or even journey mapping. But kind of moving beyond personas and like user needs, these are ways of like creatively bringing the customer into the room or the patient into the room. I love that idea about like the video
Yes,
concept.
yes. And actually storytelling is the main instrument of empathy, how we
Mm-hmm.
can maybe make other people to be more empathic about other
Mm.
people.
Yeah, no, I love that one. Um, and I suppose like in your line of work now, that's what you're trying to do, bring people in touch with the customer or patient reality and enable them to
have a set of tools that can enable their creativity, because I guess you work with a lot of companies that are working on things like ad campaigns and brands and beyond kind of just general customer experience, about how to reposition things in people's minds and even connecting with the emotion, I guess, of the people that are going to be buyers, to be able to come up with creative ideas to generate demand through marketing. I think it's all very fascinating, and it all does come down to the neuroscience, doesn't it? And the fact that people just aren't really that rational because we're so driven by emotion, aren't we? Like,
Yes.
I know what my background in retail, like thinking about like buyers and how people buy, and I think the urge for retail is just to be very kind of pragmatic and functional. But actually the reasons why people buy things, like when I learned more about like brands and how brands are just like constructs in people's minds, and they can mean quite different things, and what they're actually buying is the idea that's been planted in their minds about what that product says about themselves. Just absolutely fascinating.
Yeah. It's very interesting to study the nature of people, how brain works, and what can influence our decisions. This is very interesting.
Yeah, and like designing for emotional needs as well as functional needs in customer experience. I think we tend to more towards the latter in terms of functionality, which is important. But I think the alchemy in customer experience, particularly in branded environments, is being able to get into that next dimension, which is meeting customers' emotional needs. And we see it, I guess, in customer service, don't we? Or like when things go wrong, where customers' emotional needs are not met and being listened to, when they've got a problem that needs solving. There's the functional aspect of resolving it, but what can happen in that interaction when you don't feel listened to or understood or recognized or even seen can cause chaos, can't it?
Yes, and it's absolutely clear that the shortest way to consumers' heart are through emotions, because it's easier for us to react on emotional stimuli.
Fast as
Yes,
happens
absolutely.
faster. Yeah.
Yeah. So it's easier, but it's not so simple to find a good instrument how to resonate with positive emotions of people.
Yeah, but I suppose but thinking about like empathy mapping or experience mapping through the lens of emotion, not knowing what time your delivery is going to turn up creates confusion, doesn't it? And not being sure, which is a cognitive load that you could just really do without. I think that's like one of the reasons why Amazon's so good, isn't it? Like, because you know exactly what's happening. They send you messages what time things are going to be arriving. If there's a problem, they tell you about it, and it's all done via automation and great technical capability. But how many CX professionals are thinking about how do you reduce mental load and decision making and stress through the experience and designing for that.
Yes, and actually, excellent customer experience like a good therapy for people, because it provides maybe sort of filtering this information noise, and provides the proper service in proper time at proper place, and this is what we need in the
Yeah.
world when we overloaded with information choices, and of course very easy interactions, very simple missions we can make doing something. It's a great help for our mental health as well.
Yeah, I'm loving this idea of like stress reduction journey maps. How can we reduce our customer stress?
Yeah,
Taking that as a lens of an idea.
yeah,
So final question. Why did you translate the book into English from Russian? What was the
yeah.
reason for that? Because that must have been a lot of hard work.
Yes, and I stand for globalization of thoughts and values.
Mhm.
And I believe that people with the same values should unite, despite the fact they belong to different languages, nationalities, races, genders, and so on. And I believe that if people with the same values people are united around humanistic values, we can overcome many crises in our world, like economic, political, climate, mental health
Social.
crisis. And this is very important. And I would say that if you realize that it's easy now to have your thoughts, your voice to be heard through different opportunities, global opportunities like social networks, blogging. You can write,
Podcasts.
yes, yes, and you can write books, and you can publish this book on a global platform in any language of the world. So it seems to me that we have to use this opportunity to be heard.
Yeah, I love that. I think I'd summarize that in saying basically what you said at the start about women in CX, wasn't it? Like a group of people who have shared values and a huge amount of diversity in terms of what they do, where they work, where they're from, but coming together around a shared set of values really does make for better experiences for everybody. And I really love that, and I'm so glad that you published your book in English. So for the listeners, is there any like one final thought or piece of advice or takeaway you'd like them to take from our conversation today?
First of all, thank you for the conversation we have today about very important things, and maybe I would like to remember that we talked a lot about empathy, and maybe I have to mention that really we live in an age of empathy, but empathy is not a business instrument to generate additional profit and capitalization. Empathy is about putting people first, priority for people health, well-being, and this is important. And I love customer experience because in the core concept of customer experience is a person, human being, and this is very important. And I believe that business success, profit, etc., this is just consequence of a very proper and right emphasis on people and maybe satisfying their needs. So I would say that maybe it's important to remember that the main goal of the business, meaning of the business, is making people life better. So it's about empathy and it's about customer experience.
Love that. And thank you for reminding us of that. And staying true to it is so hard sometimes, isn't it, in a commercial world where everything is about consumption and capitalization. But it's as true as ever, isn't it, that without your customers, you don't have a business. So without your employees, you don't have a way of serving your business. So if you get too far off the tracks of being people-centric, your business is only going to go one way. So thank you so much, Marina. It's been lovely to talk to you today.
Thank you, Claire. It was my pleasure to talk to you today.
And thank you to everybody who listened or watched the podcast today.
Of course.
Thank you, everyone. We'll see you next time. Bye for now.
Thank you. Bye-bye.
Thanks for listening to the Inspiring Women in CX podcast with me, Clare Muscutt. If you enjoyed the episode, please drop us a like, subscribe, and leave a review on whichever platform you're listening or watching on. And if you want to know more about becoming a member of the world's first online community for women in customer experience, please check out our website, womenincx.community/membership. Join us again next time where I'll be talking to one of our community members from France about the benefits of inclusive research and design. See you all soon.